What do you think of when you imagine an E46 M3?
If you're anything like me, it all comes down to driving feel. And so much of that on this E46 M3 platform is due to the playful yet predictable rear axle.
Which is good, because today we're making the rear end of my E46 Touring mechanically perfect by transplanting everything that makes an M3 an M3, including, but not limited to, this limited slip differential.
This M3 subframe, the torsional rigidity increasing V-brace mount, as well as some upgraded bushings, bearings, and hubs. Bilstein struts and eyebox springs. And it wouldn't be a rebuild if we didn't put the L back into LSD. But we're not gonna start with any of that.
Wow. We're actually gonna start with this. Whoop, whoop. Oh, the heaviest exhaust known to man.
That's right where the M3 got its beautifully raspy, spider-infested quad exit exhaust. Non-M cars got a beautifully functional spare tire.
And to get this M3 exhaust onto that non-M3 Touring, we've got our work cut out for us. The challenge now is to replace the OEM trunk floor with the M3 unit. So I've looked at this like 100 different ways, from knocking out the pinch welds and replacing the whole panel to kind of doing a bit of a patch job and like 98 other points of view.
And what I decided was that the metal on this Touring was simply too clean, and that as much of it as possible should be preserved when bringing in the M3 panel. And without further ado, it's time to cut.
Goodbye, functionality. Okay, so that's the whole cut with a bunch of leftover material that we won't actually need, but we'll trim that up later. And when I put in the trimmed up M3 panel, that's kind of what I'm envisioning. So I'll trace this out, give it a cut, mount this in, tack it in place, bada bing, bada boom, we got an M3 floor.
After many minutes of meticulously cutting and ensuring the floor would fit, it was time to prep the metal for welding, which of course means a thorough degrease and a layer of weld-through primer to prevent any future corrosion. One last look at the panel to make sure everything's lining up nicely, and it's time to weld.
Excuse me, Mr. Muffler. Oh, shoot. Come on. Oh, yeah. Come on. Let's rock and roll. Brother, where's that going? Nowhere. The rattle's from this, not from any of my welds. Solid.
With the trunk floor in, we can now see the physical space that's been cleared up for the M3 exhaust. But there are some more problems. Where the M3 exhaust has 2 exhaust hangers on the driver's side and 1 on the passenger side, the non-M only has 1 on the driver's side and 0 on the passenger side. So we're going to relocate one of the existing hangers.
Okay, so we've marked where we need that bracket to be relocated to, and now with the punch tool, we'll just mark our holes and get to drilling. Not much more to it than that. Hopefully my measurements are correct. Oh, super fast. Okay, after a little bit of shaping. Look at that. OEM.
After officially relocating the hanger and admiring our work, it was time to get the passenger hanger off the donor car. But there was just one itsy problem. With the jack pads occupied by the wheel dollies, I had to get a little bit creative, perhaps even a little bit questionable with my quick jack placement.
Is it dumb if it works? Nowhere.
This is the hanger that we need in all of its rusty glory.
Okay, 4 1/4 on the dot. get cutting.
After taking care of all the visible rust and treating the rest with some rust converter, it was time to add on some weld-through primer and permanently attach the bracket. With everything on, we can finally do a test fit. Let's see how this baby fits. I will be chalking this up as a resounding success, but there is still so much work to do.
Now this is officially an E46 M3 exhaust on a non-M Touring. And you'd probably think that at this point, the non-cosmetic welding is done. You'd be wrong, of course, because it wouldn't be a true M3 conversion without this guy. This V-brace attaches to the diff carrier that I've loosely placed in now. As an aside, look how nice these freshly powder-coated parts look. I can't wait to put them back in. But as I was saying, it goes from the V-brace, or from the diff carrier, to the corner. But unfortunately on the non-M models, there's nothing there. So I have to go back outside to the donor car, chop off those blocks, and weld them here. And that'll be the last of the foundational welding.
Unfortunately, by this time, the weather had turned stereotypically Canadian. It is, however, no match for me.
Got it. And then some. We took far more off than we needed to, but I wanted to make sure I got the whole reinforcement panel and not just patches of it. So now we'll take a closer look, try and separate it from everything else, and see kind of where that lands us. There was absolutely no art here. Just a man, some tunes, and a hammer. Gross. We still need to clean this area up and obviously clean the piece up a lot more, but essentially what we've got is something like that. Now I will say there is an aftermarket option available that's just this bottom box, and it's like $100. That took all day for me to get this off the car and get the panel isolated, and it's not even cleaned up and the area is not even prepped. So probably just buy the thing. But it won't be OEM. Look at that.
I will save you the trouble of watching me do that twice, but with both panels prepped, the chassis prepped, and primed.
No, come on.
Take two, and primed. We can get these panels on using the exact OEM welding points. This is what full M3 conversion commitment looks like. You don't have to do this.
Now with the mounting points welded in, we can do a cheeky little test fit. So the diff brace is back, we got the V brace here, and let's see if I even remotely know what I'm doing, because I'm not so sure. Oh, okay. I mean, right now, that's enough to tell us that we are close. Oh, we're good. We're so good. M3 conversion, baby. And that concludes the structural welding. But if I was to leave the metal exposed, it will last exactly 1 Canadian winter before the whole thing rots out and falls through. So I obviously can't let that happen. And here's what we're gonna do about it.
Allow me to introduce the agents of rust prevention. We've got a genuine 2K epoxy primer that'll bond to the metal and prevent corrosion like no other. We've got a urethane seam sealer that will not only protect our welds, but arguably make them look 100 times better. A light green E-coat mimic will not only add another layer, but will also give us that OEM-esque finish. And finally, the big hoss. This wool wax cavity wax will creep into every crook and crevice, provide a hydrophobic barrier, while also curing to a semi-permanent finish. This is the captain of the team. After a scuff with 100 grit sandpaper, it was time to begin the rust proofing regimen.
Okay, that's curing. Mandatory 12-hour break till that's done. I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning. Now that I've washed the gray out of my beard, we can proceed with step 2.
Armed with a brush and a caulking gun, this was an immensely satisfying process. It finally makes the car look a little bit more put together than bare welds everywhere. And with seam sealer back into the areas where I took it off originally, it's starting to look a little bit more OEM.
And that's step 2 done. We're gonna let this cure for at least an hour, probably a little bit more to make sure, and then we'll move on to the next step. Cut, print, moving on, let's go. Not a bad little hour. Okay, so now this is supposed to mimic the factory E-coat. How close it'll be to the exact color, I'm not sure. I'm hoping it's pretty close. Let's find out.
Not perfect, but pretty close. I'm genuinely happy with this. Almost like I was never here.
Okay, so that's gonna cure for at least 24 hours. Ideally, I might give it a few days just to make sure that it's fully done and set. When we come back, we're gonna douse the whole area in wool wax creep and crawl, which is a form of cavity wax.
Now that everything's had a chance to cure for an appropriate amount of time, we can absolutely go to town with the cavity wax. Be warned, it's a messy process.
No, right at the end. Lock and load. So now the goal here is going to be to get this literally everywhere. Every crease and crevice, cavity wax. Rust doesn't stand a chance. Let me get that for you. There we go. I feel like I'm spraying Pepto-Bismol all over the car. This is cool, this is fun. So now the best part about this is you're probably thinking, yeah, that's good and all, but you weren't really able to get into the crevices of it all. Bam, 360 sprayer tip. We're just gonna swap this out, hit every hole. Buddy, no rust.
I realize the irony now of obsessing over an OEM finish when I was just going to douse the whole thing in this pink / straw colored cavity wax. But live and learn.
So while that's all curing, we can finally move on to something mechanical. The differential.
And it starts by taking it apart in its entirety. Or at least trying to.
I wasn't asking. Now, I'm not going to pretend to fully understand how these magic boxes work.
Please, allow me to make a complex topic way too simple. This is a limited slip differential, which means that under normal driving situations, it acts like an open diff. Perfect for daily driving. But when the wheel speed starts to differ, like under some enthusiastic driving, that puts pressure on the shear pump, which puts pressure on the clutch packs, which progressively locks the wheels. BMW advertised this unit as a 0 to 100% lock, which means it's perfect. It's the best of both worlds. Unfortunately, this differential has 3 major problems. 1, that progressive lockup that's so good, it takes time, and there's too long of a delay from when you need it to when you get it. 2, over the years, those clutch packs, they wear down. So even when the differential wants to lock, it can't. And finally, the right output shaft, it gets a little bit of play in it, resulting in the textbook M-clunk differential. So with all these problems, what could we possibly do? Well, spending more money is always an option. You can get a true mechanical diff like out of an M5, you can get a fancy aftermarket diff like a Drexler, and these are all super viable options. Or you can do what I'm doing, and for a fraction of the cost, we can go out with the old and in with the new. Enter racing diffs with their free play delete kit.
So now that we know the problems with the OEM diff, let's talk solutions. Now we've got a really cool kit here from Racing Diffs. The first solution is this shim, which replaces the factory shim. If you'll notice the difference, this one, the aftermarket one, is conical. That will delete the free play from the right output shaft. 2, we've got all new clutch packs. That one's straightforward. Obviously, that's going to replace all the worn clutch packs from the OEM diff. And finally, the most interesting piece of this kit is this other conical washer. Now, this does not replace an OEM unit, but what it does do is get added on to the end of the chain. And because it's conical, it'll actually add some preload to the clutch packs, making it not a true open diff. I believe it's about 20% lockup even under normal driving circumstances. But what that does do is make the lockup much more predictable and happen much faster. So with that, let's put it together.
Putting the diff together is the exact opposite of the disassembly. We simply have to clean everything, make sure everything's lubed up with some diff oil, and put it back the way we found it. Make sure you are paying attention because it's very easy to go out of sequence.
I forgot the most important piece, the shear pump. The shear thing, the shear pin, whatever this is called, shear something. Forgot it. That's okay.
And with that resolved, we can finally go back to dropping in the clutch packs.
And the final piece, the preload shim. Cool.
You'll notice the small gap. That's actually the preload shim doing its thing. So that'll be tightened down and the gap eliminated.
So it's time to torque these to 150 Newton meters. But my vise is not bolted down, but we do have C-clamps. What are the odds? Do we think this is gonna work? Sometimes my genius astounds me. If it works. Okay, so just kidding. This is obviously a baby vise. We'll hold off the genius comments for now.
While I continue to think of a solution for that, we can turn our attention to this disgusting diff cover. And while you certainly can buy these new, it's definitely not the most inexpensive thing. I'd personally rather spend the money somewhere else, especially when you have this cute little ultrasonic cleaner. And I know what you're thinking. Christian, you can't buy the bushings separately. They're included in the cover. But for just a few dollars, you can buy E46 M3 bushings, and these fit right in. My research has shown that they might be a touch softer than the OEM E46 ones, but as someone who's not willing to make the jump to the NVH from the polyurethane bushings, I think these are a perfectly viable solution. And now back to the differential. If you can't think of a solution, you can muscle your way through it. Brawn beats brain every time. And with the differential torqued and ready to go, we can turn our attention to the diff housing, which is disgusting. But nothing that a little elbow grease can't fix. And we'll finish the diff in a nice silver color. That way it stands out from the OEM alternatives. Just kidding, I'm honestly not that cool. I wish I could pull off a red diff or a pink diff, but I just can't. So with the diff looking brand new, it's time to replace every single seal, starting with the differential input shaft. Now this is very important. The nut needs to be tightened to the exact spec it was before you removed it. And the best way to do that is to mark and count the number of turns it took to get it off, and then count those when it's time to put them back on.
9 3/4.
For the seal itself, it just needs to be pried off and the new one gently hammered on.
A little more.
And you can see based on my reinstallation that everything is lined up exactly how it should be. So this diff won't have any problems. The collars are more of the same, just hammer in the seals and replace the O-ring. Easy peasy. And that's it. Let's close this diff back up. Please excuse my rusty hardware. A line needs to be drawn somewhere. Just need to align the splines and then the shaft should slide right in.
Percussion, baby.
BMW has moved away from the paper gasket that used to seal these differentials, so we're using RTV. All right, we just put the limited back into limited slip differential, but now it's time to change our attention over to the subframe and trailing arms.
Now, I know the cover's not the prettiest, but the money we saved by not buying a new one bought us
solid subframe bushings and spherical everything else bushings. But before we can put any of our performance bushings in this beautifully powder-coated subframe, we need to address a big problem. The powder coater powder-coated inside each of the sealing surfaces, which is no bueno. There's only one thing I can do about it.
Okay, so now that these are nice and sanded, we can get the bushings in. And this will be take 2 of my genius solutions. Hopefully this one works.
Because several days ago, I tucked all the bushings into the freezer, hoping that they get small enough that they slide into the subframe a little bit easier. Does it work? You tell me. That's right, the bushing slid in with ease, until the other end starting to push down on the wood I was using as a base. So we start with the press and we finish with the threaded rod.
Dare I say perfection? Okay, so let me knock out the leather 3, we'll get back to you. There we go. 4 subframe bushings, 1 diff bushing, the subframe is done. Now we're gonna keep the momentum going with the trailing arms. Rock and roll.
And these bearings were an absolute battle. It started off well with the press until the wooden base couldn't take it. And we went back to the threaded rod and it was a fight. Did I mention something about brawn over brains?
That's looking perfect. Now for the snap ring. The snap ring already broke my Mickey Mouse snap ring pliers, so I had to get these new ones. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna close my eyes as I install this. Oh! Oh! Perfect! Make sure you're supporting the inner race on this one. Excellent. Freezer, 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 freezer. New freezer. Look at this. Hub officially on and smooth as butter. Assuming you have smooth butter. I don't know.
Just a couple more sphericals.
Perfect. Check, check, check. One more.
I'm not sure how much the freezer helped, but what I can say the ones that were in the freezer went in much easier than the ones that weren't. Brain over brawn? And finally, just need to pop these screws in.
That's one trailing arm done. Add this to the done pile. Finish up the other one. Look at these beautiful parts, just begging to be reinstalled. It's a shame there are a couple more things to do. And one of those things is this lower control arm.
One came out with only minimal resistance.
Oh, finally. We're losing light.
The other?
Jeez Louise.
Was a bit more of a pain, but we got him.
The same one that came out easy is going in easy. I don't understand. Add them to the done pile. That's obviously everything, right? Wrong. We got a fuel tank to do. Now I was just going to reuse the M3 fuel tank, but in my excitement, I broke this prong. And I don't want to do anything sketchy, so brand new fuel pump. And the wagon fuel tank is in much better condition, so we're simply going to swap the pumps over to this one. But not before we do a little bit of cleaning.
As you'll be able to tell, the day was getting long and I was slowly slipping into madness.
I wonder what percentage of this dirt is original Vegas dirt, what percentage is original BC, and how much of the salt is from me here in Ontario. There has to be some Vegas dirt on this. Let's remove this. 3/4 of a circle before it's off. That's awesome. That was easy. Sometimes I'm like, oh wow, that was easy. And then I realized that I took the gas tank off the car and I'm working in all the comfort I can possibly have. Yeah, obviously it's easy. Mr. Fuel Pump, please come to me. Boom, boom, boom. Cool. And now M3 fuel pump, right? That easy? First we put the new gasket in. I'm pretty sure it's this way. Or is it completely 180 from what I thought? No, I'm pretty sure it's this way. Let's go check the M3. Yeah, plug at the back, easy peasy, let's go. There we are. A new fuel pump. Okay, this is hand tight. This is where it started. Wax ring at the top. Cool. Ouchie. Little clip. And hopefully only minimal garbage in the gas tank. M3 unit. Dirty, but kind of cleaned. Did my best. Oh, it clipped. Perfect. Excellent. Wax. There we go. Top. Right. Okay. Now can we put everything back? You bet your ass we can.
And what better way to start than with our fresh fuel tank?
Let's try to do this without destroying my beautiful rust proofing.
Equipped with new hose clamps, it's a matter of putting everything back where I found it.
There we go. That's on. And I'm already tired. Happy with that. Good. Get on there. Boom, 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 boom. I want you in my room. Hee hee. Washer. The one covered in pink goo, please. There we go, jeez. Don't know why that was so hard. Before we tighten everything, let's just go to the top, make sure everything looks okay up there.
And it does. Just gotta tighten it up and we're good to go.
Now we can tighten. Dog hair. Very good. Gas tank on! Woo!
And now to start prepping for the subframe to go back. We thread these in by hand before applying some torque.
More pink goo, please. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a properly torqued grunt. That's how you know. Now for the subframe, I think it's gonna be easier to put the diff in on the ground, and maybe the lower control arm and maybe the toe arms. That's gonna make it heavy, but I'm very, 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 very strong. Okay, Mr. Differential. Okay. And this way the diff's in position and I can bring the subframe up to the mounting points and that'll make the front diff bolt easier to get to. Oh, you're good. Mm-hmm. Now the other. I'm good. And now, because of my genius, the diff bolt's lined up nice and easy. My booklet tells me that these are just 20 Newton meters plus a 90-degree turn. Look at all this access. Oh, very light. All right, 90. From vertical to horizontal. Let's go. 90. Same. Vertical. Horizontal. That's it. And just dab of this to make us look professional. Maybe it'll take some attention away from the rusty bolts. No one tell me these are single use. I do not care. This one. 200 Newton meters. Easy, girl. Easy, girl. Torqued. And the professional. Perfect. Now for the control arm and toe arm, which are gonna go like that and like that. On top, below. Finger tight. Maybe I should have started with the toe arm because it's underneath this. Oh well. Lessons learned for the other side. Okay, that's loose. Butt in. Bit of a scare that the toe arm wouldn't go in, but the bolt wouldn't have space because of the diff. Love taps, where you at? Okay, rubber bushings will get their final torque at ride height. You'll remind me, right? For this side, we learned our lesson. We start with the toe arm. Oh, the diff. Oh no, oh no. Huh. I'm putting it in backwards. Oh no, you can't. No. No. Oh, it's offset. So you're telling me the only way to get this bolt through here is to remove the diff? Which means anytime you have to service the toe arm, you have to remove the diff? That can't be right. It's not that it's three bolts, but it's the principle of the thing. Oh my god. I'm missing something. I know I'm missing something. There's gotta be an explanation. Sometimes you gotta go back to go forwards. No big deal. Not trying to get a laugh. Did you know about this? And nobody told me? Nobody thought to tell me? Okay. It's fine, I guess. It makes this a lot easier. And if I didn't do it for the toe arm, I'd wager that the control arm was going to be in the way too. I hope to be corrected. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. That cannot be the right way of doing things. There's no way the bolt's coming out the back. There's no way the nut's coming out the front. Or I mean, there's no way the bolt's coming out the front either. There's a subframe there. Okay, diff take 2. Click, click, 90, 90. Big click.
The strategy here is to balance the whole rear axle assembly on my jack using a hockey puck and a piece of wood. If you have a better idea, I don't want to hear it.
Not balanced. One step roll back. Relatively stable. Okay, that's relatively stable on the jack. Let's get it up.
Knowing that this was a borderline sketchy idea, I had a helper arrive just in the nick of time.
Oh, perfect timing. I'm doing something dangerous. 2 nuts, 2 studs, and then 2 bolts into there. Pump, 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 pump. Now, before I lower this jack, I want everyone to know that the last time I almost tipped the car on myself, the gas tank was half full, the real trailing arms were here, the boot had a spare tire in it. I'm probably gonna be okay. See? Totally fine.
And now just to jack up the front so that the bushings at the front of the subframe are seated properly.
Okay. And the lowering of the jack marks the official installation of the rear axle. Nothing's tipping. And we're good. Do you see what I see? M3 rear axle. That's on. It's official. This rear end is more M3 than not, but it's not done yet. It's time to do the trailing arms and the axles and the brakes and then probably the rest of the car. So anyways, let's go. Okay, trailing arms. Now the best part about this is that since this is a spherical, I don't really have to worry about the alignment. So I can just pop this in and torque it to spec. Oh, maybe it is easier on the car. Now, I have taped up this lower control arm so I have a straight shot to the axle. Is there a chance that this tape rips, I get bonked on the head, and get really annoyed? Strong possibility. And since the diff is already up there, I don't want to get into a situation where this gets put up and then I can't fit the axle in. So we're gonna pre-thread the axle into here, and that way it'll go up together. A little bit of grease on the splines here. I don't know if that's official BMW service, but if you saw the battle I had to take this off, you would understand.
Little love tap.
And then the nut. Nice. I'm gonna torque that down later. For now, let's get this on the car. So now it's pretty easy. I'm gonna try and not let this axle hang too long on its own. Okay, change strategy. Oh, yep, that's a good spot. Thank you. Now we align. Oh, perfect. Don't move. Nobody move a muscle. Oh, Christian, you have a jack. I am the jack. You stay up there. I asked you nicely, so I ask, who needs yoga? Because those are in, maybe I should get a jack. Where's the jack? It's over there. Can I reach it? Excuse me. Okay. Whew, use the jack. You'll notice that it's no longer painter's tape because that fell right on my head. That's the wrong way. Not that it matters. We're gonna leave that pretty loose for now. Let's get the bottom. The bottom's already perfect. Oh, hello. And now we're gonna pop the shock on to kind of support this whole thing. We've got Bilsteins and also new top mounts. Garbage, new.
Just need to loosely thread these on for now to hold the shock in place, and we'll torque it to final spec later.
Now for these first ones, you're gonna have to jiggle it past the boot, and then jiggle twist, jiggle twist, jiggle twist. And then by counter holding on the diff input shaft, we can torque these all to spec. Get the eye block in there. I am a little bit worried this is gonna be too low for the wagon, but it's an easy correction if it is. So no harm, no foul. Bring it up, knock the strut in real quick. Oh yeah, that's perfect. We're not gonna torque this until we get back up to ride height. Now, I obviously don't have a 4-post lift, so torquing these at ride height is gonna be a little bit difficult. So what I'm gonna do is jack up the rear end until it starts picking up off the rear jack point. And that means that the weight of the car will be supported. And that'll be ride height, right? Yeah. Oh. Yep, starting to go. Okay, let's get torquing. Now these are spherical, so I didn't have to do these at ride height, but I think it's just good practice. With these two subframe ones are actually kind of hard to get to, but we'll do what we can. Oh, no chance. Absolutely no chance. So tight. Click, click. Click. Perfect. Now we can route through the handbrake. So much easier to route these clean ones in than it was to get the original ones out. Spoiled. I'm spoiled. Spoiled boy. Cool, cool, cool. Pop on. And pop in. Easy peasy.
Handbrake assemblies have to be one of the most annoying and tedious things to do on a car.
Gotcha.
It's spring-loaded, nothing lines up, very frustrating. But you gotta do what you gotta do, and we'll get this on there.
And finally, some M3 brakes. Get on there. Yes. Very nice. Now, a keen observer would notice no calipers, and I'm still deciding on what to do there. So for now, I'm gonna ugga-dugga the axle nut, and we'll torque it properly later. Now, this is the part I'm kind of most nervous about, so I know I'm gonna have to take this off when I put the drive shaft and exhaust in. For now, I just wanna see if it fits. Okay, first one's a gimme. No way. Two's also easy. Anyone can make two fit. It fits. Oh my, it fits. It fits. It fits. Do I know what I'm doing? And that's it. Crazy. You'll notice there's no rear sway bar. And that is because I realized how laughably bad this one was. So I gotta figure out a solution for another one. But in the meantime,
This is everything that makes the rear end of the E46 M3 special, including a rebuilt and upgraded diff. We've got new brakes, new hubs, new bearings, and upgraded strut and spring combo. On top of the M3 trailing arm and upgraded bushing, we've also got M3 fuel tank.
I genuinely hoped you liked this. This was hundreds of hours of work, research, perfection. I'm over the moon.
But it obviously doesn't stop there. On the next one, I think it's time to get this bad boy running.